Hey everybody, welcome to Adam Does Hard Things. Today we're talking about the Marji Gesick. If you don't know, the Marji Gesick is a 100-mile single track mountain bike race. There is some nice, cushy, paved roads, um, somewhere around mile 40 and somewhere around mile 60. You're on them for a total of about 5 or 6 miles. And the rest is single track. So very punchy climbs, rocks, roots. If you've been up there and ridden it, you know. If you haven't yet, you should go find out because it's a lot of fun trails. So today what I want to focus on is not necessarily the race itself. I want to focus on the mental side of it. The lead up, the aftermath, why we do it. Essentially for me in 2022, the Marji Gesick 100 was my first real mountain bike race. That sounds pretty insane, but I did a couple lead up races, but it was kind of the reason I wanted to start mountain biking. I can't really explain it entirely yet. I'm getting closer, but it was something I saw other people doing that seemed epic and very hard and pushing limits. As it says, find your limits, destroy them. So it was just something that I felt like I had to do, and I really wanted to do it. So I started training in 2022. I went up and I went in as a noob. We call it fresh meat. I was fresh meat into the 100 and I finished in 20 hours, 54 minutes. So it was a day. It was a big accomplishment. So last year, 2023, I went in and decided to do some crits, some road racing, some other things, and I kind of went into it very undertrained for that sort of event. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't take it for granted, but I kind of had the feeling of, I've done this before, I know I can do it again. And that was not the case. I got my butt kicked. I made it to mile 70, which is still an accomplishment, but I quit. I was done. My legs were just done. I was toast. Going into Ramba, which are the trails towards the end, the last 40-ish miles, I knew it was coming, so it was that much harder to go into it, and my legs were so fried that I called it quits. I can say now, part of that was definitely mental, but a lot of it was just severe undertraining and just combination of the legs and the mind. So I came back this year wanting to go all out to attempt the out and back, which is every 5 years. Now, I didn't feel ready for the out and back. I didn't even think that I could do the out and back or was even capable of it. But I was like, it's every 5 years. I got to give it a try. But I had to finish a Triple Crown, which is the 3 big events that 906 Adventure Team puts on: the Polar Roll, the Crusher, and the Marji Gesick. To do the Triple Crown of Pain, you have to do the longest, one of the longest routes in each race. And Crusher had eluded me because I quit. That was my first big event, and I quit. So quit again this year. So I didn't get into the Triple Crown, which killed the out and back for me. So there's a lot of things you can go into with this. People who haven't done these events, you tell them, yeah, I did this 30-hour mountain bike race. I did 215 miles, and I got disqualified because I missed a checkpoint. And they're like, what the heck? What? That sounds idiotic. Why would you get disqualified for something like that? And my take on it was, there are rules, and I didn't complete it. Like, you have to hit the checkpoints. That's the rules of the race, and if you don't do it, you don't finish. So that's that. I just didn't find it. Got to move on. The hardest thing for me to deal with this summer was I knew I had one shot to get that done, and that was my one shot. I have 4 kids, a family, and this kind of training can put strains on various relationships, as if you have a family and you've tried to do things like this, you understand. So my priorities being as they are, I had to just regroup mentally and head to Marji. Wausau 24 was a hiccup in between. That was supposed to be a big training race for me, and it didn't exactly work out that way. I quit at Wausau as well. I made it about 13 hours, I think. It was nighttime. I was having a really hard time around like the 9th or 10th lap. I can't quite remember. I went into the night, took a nap, and woke up in the middle of the night, and I had nerve damage like I've never had before, to the extent where I could not feel my hands at all. There was absolutely no feeling. I was smacking my hands against the back of my seat. I slept in my van. I couldn't feel anything at all. So needless to say, that was a little scary. So I sat and I just worked, eventually got some feeling back in my hands, and I was like, I'm done. I got like 100 miles in on single track, and I wanted to have this, like, I wanted a podium. I wanted to get a really good time, and it was like, nope, I am just going to do further damage to my body. I'm calling it quits. So then it was mentally regroup after a second failure to head into Marji. And the farther I got away from Crusher, the more I was angry at myself. And I thought, there was this one random trail that I started down. And the more I delved into looking at the course, if I had kept on that road for another 2.5 miles, I would have found Rock Cut, the checkpoint I needed. Now, I would have had to backtrack those 2.5, or actually would have been about 4 miles. I would have had to backtrack to get back on course. But then I would have finished. And looking back on it, it was a combination. Yes, I felt like I was lost. I didn't trust Google because I couldn't read the course, and every time I matched it up to my Garmin, it was like, I just don't know if it's going to be down there. So I didn't trust it, and I decided to move on. Hindsight's 2020, as we know, but the farther I got away, I just got angrier at myself and just beat myself up because I'm really good at that. So coming into Marji, I had to reset and just say, you know what? This is 100 miles. I need to give it my all. I can't think about the failures. I just have to go into this and give it everything I have because I know what it takes to finish. It is a beast of a race. So there was a lot of mental stuff going on heading into this race. What do I say about him? My inspiration was that I had a good friend of mine, Brian, who was originally going to support me for the out and back. And then my oldest son, Galen, who's 11, was going to come along to help support. And we kept that plan for the 100. Even though I wasn't doing the out and back, I was like, you know what? We're all committed to going up there. So I was excited for Galen to see what all the race is about, just everything that goes into it, and seeing my preparation for a year and what it's like. So yeah, the race itself was Marji. It was hard, it was gnarly, it was fun. I can get into the trails. I'm a little unsure of where I want to focus because I wrote out all my notes. Maybe I'll do a separate video where I kind of walk through some of the trails and what my pointers are and what you need to focus on to actually finish this thing. I think I'll do a second video on that and just talk about the trails. But now I just kind of focusing on my experience and the mental side of it. The biggest mental thing that I did on the day, other than relying on seeing Galen and knowing that I couldn't let him down, was not thinking about the future of the race at all. I went in thinking, I've trained a year for this. I'm going to enjoy every single moment of this race and not think about what's coming next. Because so often, once you start to get tired, you think, oh, it's this many miles to go, or it's this many miles until the next hard thing I got to do. And I didn't want to think about any of that. I just wanted to be able to enjoy the race because the trails are so much fun. There's just so much awesome riding that I wanted to be in the moment and love it. So that was pretty much my only goal. I had time goals in mind, but I wasn't glued to them. I was just there to have fun and be positive and get my second finish. So I did that. I had an absolute blast in the beginning of the race. North Trails were so much fun. Top of the world with our friend the bagpiper was just great. Um, Support was amazing. Galen did such a fantastic job handing me bottles, getting me food, asking what I needed, anticipating what I needed. And I was just in it every moment. I would get those thoughts like, oh, what's going to happen in 30 miles? And I'm like, no, I push it out. I'm like, these are the most fun trails in the world. I'm going to just have fun on these. And I did. It was, I want to say the first 75 miles were just pure fun. Obviously, there's some difficulties. There's some climbs in there that are tough, but I was just having fun. One cool note was I set a PR going up Zoogs. I led like 6 or 7 people up Zoogs, and I kept my heart rate just at the top of zone 2, bottom of zone 3, and I set a PR, and it was it was pretty awesome. I rode almost the whole trail. So that was pretty cool. I rode all the way up Market Mountain, which is kind of a hard climb for me. It's basically just a gravel climb, but it's steep, and I rode all the way up that. Was just having a blast, seeing friends, riding with some friends, and sometimes alone, a lot alone. But yeah, that the mindset helped me so much. I think it was, like I said, about 75 miles in, I had a crash in the Ramba trails. I was coming down kind of a gulch, and there's like, it's pretty deep. It was probably 3 feet, rocks on both sides, and I hit something and I just handled it wrong. My weight wasn't right, and I came up out of the side of it, and I could immediately feel that my wheel had given out and I was going down. I knew I was going down. So I hit the deck and I slid, and my knee just smacked into a rock, which is how I came to a stop. And somebody behind me, a friend of mine, Dan, asked if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm all right. I just needed a minute. It looked a lot worse than it actually was. I got a scrape. My knee was a little bruised, but it wasn't anything bad. It got in my head, though, because I had been riding downhill stuff that I've never been able to ride before. And that moment was like, okay, I need to be a little bit more cautious on the downhills because it's going to get dark soon. And then I need to be really careful. I can't injure myself. One, I'm not going to finish. And two, I got to go to work in a couple days. So took it a little easier, slowed down a little bit. And that was when the frustration started. The difficulties through all the Ramba trails was the walking. You get to this place where you think, oh, maybe I could ride my bike for a mile. Like, that'd be cool. And then you think, well, maybe if I could just ride my bike for 5 minutes, that would be fun. And then you get all the way down to like, if I could just ride my bike for like 10 seconds, that'd be great. Like, just anything more than 10 or 15 seconds that I don't have to get off my bike would be fucking awesome right now. So I went through a couple dark places. There were a couple crazy moments there. But the biggest one that I want to highlight that kind of encapsulates this whole year and where I'm going in the future was, I want to say, it's difficult because when my crash happened, my Garmin decided, hey, I'm going to stop this ride and save it for you. And then a mile and a half later, I realized, oh, crap, my Garmin isn't on. I saved the route, so I had to restart. So I lost a mile and a half in there. I think it was a mile and a half. It's hard to tell. And then the course is listed as 100 miles, but of course it's like 107 in the GPS file. And then my Garmin mileage told me I had 110 and a half miles, which would put me about 112 total. So it was like 10-ish miles to go. I think I was at like either mile 97 or mile 100 or mile 96. I don't even freaking know. It was on Suicide Bull Road. Right before, if you raced it, it was right before the cougar or the Sasquatch or the possibly laughing clown in the background, the checkpoint. I came up, you're on the bottom of this embankment, I guess. There's forest all the way up, and you're riding around, I think it's a lake. Cedar Lake, I believe it is. Might be Carroll Jackson on those trails. I'm not certain. And you look up and you can see up there is a road, and you can see trucks and cars and lights. And I thought, oh man, my support. I didn't know if they were going to be there. We were going to try to set up support on Suicide Bowl Road, but Brian was not sure if he could get his van back there, so I didn't know if that was going to be a stop or not. So I was in the mental state of like, I'm finishing this thing by myself. I'm not stopping anywhere. I know there's an aid station over there, but it was like, I don't know if I'm going to have my bottles. I don't know if I'm going to get to see Galen. I'm like, I don't know. But then I saw Brian's Christmas lights on his van, and I thought, oh, I know those lights. I saw him at Wausau. That's him. So I went up and decided to water the forest a little bit. And Brian saw him. He's like, hey, Adam, is that you? And I was like, yeah, I'm just taking a pee real quick. I'm just taking a break. And I asked him, does this trail hook back up to you? I'm assuming so. And he's like, yeah, you just go down the woods a little bit and you come back. And that's where we are. And I was like, okay. So I went on, found the checkpoint, and this trail just kept going farther and farther and farther away from Suicide Bowl Road. And I thought, you're supposed to go the other way. Like, the trail is supposed to go this way, back to the van where my food is, and then I could just be done. I'm like, it's supposed to go that way. And we kept going this way. And I was like, God, I want to make it that stupid road. Like, what the hell? So I'm going and going. I make it to a clearing. There's a guy there, and I come in, I'm like, oh, just like my head's spinning. I'm starting to feel it. I can't eat. Everything I take down, I'm just like, bleh. I can't take calories. It's so hard. I'm just like forcing stuff down my throat, and my stomach is churning. My brain is churning. I'm like, honestly, at this point, I just want to be done. I'm like, I want to be done with this effing race. I don't want to be out here anymore in the stupid woods with these stupid cougar sounds and all these stupid walking trails and carrying my bike up crap. I'm like, I'm done. So this guy's like, dude, do you need help? And I'm like, I'm just like mumbling all this crap because I'm like delirious. And I'm like, finally I get myself together and I'm like, does this go back to Suicide Bowl Road? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, okay, all I need to know is if I get back up there, because that's where my support. And he's like, well, what do you need? How can I help? And I was like, I just want to get back up there. And he's like, well, kind of looks at the course with me, shows me where we are on the map, because I was having a hard time figuring anything out at that point. And he's like, well, what do you actually need? Like, I can help you. Is there anything that you need from him? Like, do you want me to call him? And I was like, no, my son is up there and I really just want to see him. I want to give him a hug. And he's like, okay. And he's like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, as long as I know that this goes back up to Suicide Bowl Road, I'm good. I can make it up there. So I go into the woods, and finally, after another climb and then a really steep gravel climb that I had to walk up, I finally got up there to the road. I'm like, oh, thank God. So I get up to the van, and Galen's sitting up there, and he's like, right turn. And I went right past him to the van because he was sitting to guide riders onto the next road. And that was like the big moment of the entire race for me. It was kind of like the real reason I brought him out there. Not for me, but for him. And it wound up being, it was the moment for me. Like, I sat down in the van and I was hurting. Legs were okay. I hadn't really cramped all day. My legs were feeling pretty good, but the slog of getting on and off my bike constantly and walking so much was just mentally frustrating. I'd forgotten how much of that was in Ramba, and I was just, I'm done. I don't want to go back out there. Like, this is enough. I've had enough walking. So I kind of sat for a minute, started to talk, and they started to talk me through it. And Brian's like, you're so close. You're so close. And I'm like, yeah, it's like 11 miles. It's not close. It's not close at all. And I didn't really want to quit. Okay. So I really wasn't like, I'm done, I'm going to quit. But I was like, I'll be honest, I really don't want to go back out there. And I was in a dark place. And that's what I had wanted Galen to see, was I wanted to see what it's like to be in those dark places, and that, like, look, I can suffer too. Like, I look like I know what I'm doing in these things, but I get to these places, I get to these hard places. And then what do you do when you get to those hard places. Like, are you just going to give up? Are you going to just throw in the towel? So I talked with them. I had a Coke. I had a ketone. I ate some food. My brain started to come around, and excuse me, I thought, my legs are okay. I mean, they're not great. Of course, they're sore. It's 97-ish miles into Marji. My legs they hurt, but they're fine. I crashed, but I'm not injured. I got a small bruise and a couple cuts, like no big deal. Just an average day on the mountain bike. I haven't hit my head. I'm not sick. I'm not nothing is wrong. Everything is fine, like relatively fine. So I'm like, I have absolutely no excuse to stop this thing. There is no excuse. And I've got my 11-year-old son who has seen me work so hard for this and seen me fail through 2 events, and like, I'll be damned if I'm going to quit in front of him and let his experience be that of his dad not making it. So I pulled my head together and gave Galen a really big hug and got back out there. And then I proceeded to walk my bike for another 2.5 hours, I want to say. I'm not even sure. It's pretty blurry. But I even got to a point, my moment was kind of thinking like the last trail section, the last difficult area starts at 38 special. Like, that's kind of like a trigger for me. Once you get to 38 special, you're like, oh man, there's only a few more trails left. But I was able to ride a lot of stuff and pull it out, and mentally it was just, yeah, I got this. And yeah, I just finished it out. I managed to get up Jasper Knob, get my dum-dums and come back down and across the finish line. Hardly anybody was there. I think it was, I don't know, it was like 3:30, 4 in the morning. And after all my goal setting and time desires, I finished with 20 hours, 47 minutes, 7 minutes faster than when I did it 2 years ago. And my training was way, way more consistent and way more focused this year. And like, that could be frustrating. Like, I barely finished any faster, but also did probably 6 more miles of Ramba than I did last time. But the point wasn't the time for me. The time is a real issue for, I don't know, 15 people, like, who are in the mix to finish under 12 hours to get a buckle. But for most of us, it's just about finishing. And for me, it was failure at Crusher, failure at Wausau. These things that I tried so hard to finish and I couldn't get it done. It was like, I needed to finish something. And it was very cathartic to finish that. Just to know, like, I can still do this. I can still destroy my limits. So yeah, that's the mental journey that I went through. Like I said, I will post another video and kind of talk about the trails. It's tough for me because I can't afford a GoPro yet. I really want to have some footage of these trails to talk about them because I have some cool thoughts and I haven't really seen a lot of people go through it. Mark Krantz did a series of videos. If you want to check those out, they're very helpful. But I would like to have some video for you guys and kind of walk through some of this stuff that I talk about. But I will do a video still. I'll talk about the trails and talk about the strategy and what you can do to actually finish. But for me this year, that was the rest of my year. I will say it is very hard for me this week because I'm releasing this in the middle of registration week, and I am not doing Marji next year. There's always a chance. I can't say for sure, but my buddy Andrew Rosenthal wants to do the 50, and I am all for him. If he wants to do it, that basically means that I got to stay home and cover the shop because we work together. And I want him to go up and do this. I want him to get this thing done. I will be back I am going to do the 100 again. I am going to finish my Triple Crown next year. And then in 5 years from now, I'm going to do the out and back. So you can look back at this video and show it to me if I have any second guessings later in the future. But my plan is that I am going to come back and do the out and back in 5 years. I want to get that thing done. It sounds crazy. Like right after Marji, I'm like, no, I gotta do it. I need to do the out and back. It's just something that I want to accomplish. So yeah, Andrew, you're gonna go do this thing. You're gonna finish it. I'll help you train all year, and I have another. I'm gonna keep it kind of a surprise. I've told some people what I'm doing next year, but I'm not gonna talk about it on here yet. I'll talk about it when some more details get released on it. But I'm doing something special next year, and if you register for a certain part of Marji, you might get to experience some time with me up there. So yeah, that is pretty much it for today. Thanks for tuning in if you did. Kind of relive some of my memories and some of my fun and dark places in Marji. And I hope this makes you curious about doing some hard things yourself, tackling some obstacles. I want to finish this video today with something that I heard on the Dirty Chain podcast from Jeremiah Bishop. Said something that really struck home with me, and it's something that I'm going to try to incorporate into my training for the following year, and that's every month do something that scares you, something that empties the tank. So I think I'm going to try to do that. Some doesn't have to be a huge ride, but something that I haven't done before that's a little bit scary. So I'm going to try to incorporate that each month to do something a little stupid. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Go do hard things. Crush it. Peace.